to.
Okay, thank you, Ma'am. I am very pleased to be bringing forward this proposition before the Assembly and for this, the Executive to actually be bringing forward an amendment that I have accepted as well. I think we all understand that Jersey is a very expensive place to live, and if we're looking at a year one trainee who's on £7.87 per hour, I think that is actually just going to allow them to have a life of poverty, and that is it, nothing more. And even when we're looking at year two trainee rates at £9.19, I think that again is a very poor earnings per hour, and therefore I believe that the baseline wage should be harmonised, as the amendment mentions, into the minimum wage at £10.50 per hour. And the reason for this is to actually allow wage labour to have financial independence. I think there is actually too much financial dependence on the government, and there is also too much government redistribution due to the failings of the market and in terms of how incomes are actually distributed within the marketplace. And again, I think we could be maybe looking at firms, the type of firms that we have in Jersey, and also the level of scarcity and also the level of demand for those firms. And of course, we need to be looking at the demand for goods and essentially the way how distributions are made. That it's not just about payroll expenses, it's also about non-payroll expenses that we have to factor in here for firms. And I think some firms probably have a higher level of non-payroll expenses compared to payroll expenses that we need to also consider in this debate. But when we are looking at the current trainee minimum wage rates, I think there's quite a few people who are on the trainee minimum wage rates who are in a position of negative savings where they are actually expending more than they're able to save. And actually they cannot build up a reserve because their income is so diminutive. And actually this is an opportunity now where we can be increasing the baseline wage to actually allow people to have more disposable income so they can consume more, so they can save more as well. And I think it allows them at least to have a greater purchasing power. And I think that's really important. There's actually going to be more flows generated within our economy as a result of this. And I think that is an actual benefit of bringing forward this proposition. I know behind the scenes there were some members who had reservations about me bringing forward this proposition. They felt there needed to be greater stakeholder engagement. Well, the Jersey Employment Forum, they conducted their research, empirical-based evidence, and the findings are that we should actually be seeing the trainee minimum wage be amalgamated, they said, into the minimum wage from January 2024. And that is essentially what I am doing. Now, if this legislature can agree that actually the minimum wage needs to be increased, as it has been already last year, then surely we can actually increase the trainee minimum wage rates up to the minimum wage rate. And it seems rather peculiar to actually even consider, if any member is considering voting against this proposition, because when we need to look at the size of our labour market, we are in excess of, say, 60,000 people working in our labour market. And as empirical evidence shows, in 2016 there was under 100 trainees on the minimum wage rate. Now that is actually below 1%. So why are trainees having to be paid less compared to everybody else? I think that's a very good argument. And if anybody is willing to counter me, then please feel free to do so. But I don't think that should be the case. I think everybody should be in agreement with me here. I think we need to be more progressive, and I think we need to be taking decisions as a government where we are focusing on decisions where we can actually focus on market pre-distribution instead of government redistribution. Because government redistribution, in my view, is all about public administration being inefficient. We are using taxpayer money to essentially indirectly subsidise households and to indirectly subsidise wage labour, and that cannot continue. Now, I believe we have a lever in place, and that is fiscal policy, and there can actually be changes to actually increase aggregate demand in our economy, to create new jobs, to invest in people, to invest in specialisation, so people can actually have a higher level of earnings. But those who are actually paid the trainee minimum wage rate, you need to wonder, what progression do they have in that current job that they are in? What is the top level of earnings that they could receive? Well, if they start off that low, then it's probably not going to be even in line with, say, the median wage longer term, if the aspiration is that they want to fulfill their career in that market that they work in. So I will leave it there, Ma'am, and I hope that members are willing to offer a good contribution to this debate. Thank you.
Is the proposition seconded?